What up YouTube? I'm back with another video. Today we're reacting to this rapping Hitman claimed 11 bodies. Bloodhound, Lil Jeff. You know, this video is by, who is it? Trap Lil Ross, you know. Lately I've been reacting to more of these type of videos cause reacting to music videos, bruh, YouTube be on bullshit. They be trying to take the video down and, you know, I ain't trying to deal with all that, you know. But yeah, man, let's get into the video, you know. RP to, you know, Bloodhound, Lil Jeff. You know, he was nice. His music was tough. I fuck with it. But yeah, man, let's get into it.
Anybody following the Chicago drill scene knows that in the past few months, there's been a new star rising, whose appeal was based on the very same idea that made King Von so irresistible to many fans.
King Von was that dude. He proved it. Living left.
Of the genre, a combination of personal charisma and a reputation that they really lived the life they rapped about. And what they most often rapped about was some of the most violent stories coming out of the most dangerous city in America. In a 3.5-hour video about King Von, it dawned on me that having allegedly killed at least 7 people, beaten the bodies, and then going on to brag about it to the whole world while actively planning more hits, he actually met the FBI's definition of a serial killer. And unfortunately, in recent months, another rapper has emerged who not only claimed to have killed more people than King Von, but also rapped about it and quite literally modeled his persona on other famous.
Bro, like, okay, I understand in the like legal way, the FBI and shit consider these people like King Von and, you know, Bloodhound, Lil Jeff serial killers because they kill multiple people. But it's like the difference between all these motherfuckers and to the other people. These mothers were sick in the head, you know? Sick in the head. Like, they just did this shit for, I don't know, I guess they're fun. But it's like, imagine living a good life, you know. I know they had at least had, you know, their parents or grandma or whatever. Like, they lived in a good, solid home. They ain't struggled, you know. Mom and dad paid the bills or whatever. Because I don't know their story behind them, but I'm guessing, you know, you did what all that shit just because your health or your mental health is like fucked up. Like now King Von and like these are street dudes, you know what I'm saying? They seen people get killed, you know, for the drug, the money, the, you know, shit like that. And usually when they say they kill your cousin, you gotta get your get back, or, you know what I'm saying, as a street dude. I'm not saying I would do it, but I'm saying like a street dude, like they will get your get back. Like, you in the streets, bro. Like, that's a normal thing. Like, even though it's not a good thing to handle it, but it's like you're in the streets. Like, that's what comes with it. Like, either you in jail or you somewhere, you know, dead yourself. But it's like, damn, bro. Like, damn. Like, imagine getting compared to these sickos. It's crazy.
Famous serial killers. I'm of course talking about Bloodhound, or Bloodhound Lil Jeff, the self-styled Jeffrey Dahmer of Chicago drill. And to many, the next rapper who was on their way to becoming the next big thing in the drill scene, with his wild claims that he had 10 to 11 bodies under his belt, rapping jaw-dropping bars comparing his life to video game Call of Duty and saying that he's really up 10 kills, to comparing himself to basketball legend Bill Russell and inferring that he'd committed as many murders as Russell has won championship rings.
These ads, man.
Before I tell you any more about the Lil Jeff story, I need to give you a very important content warning. This video is going to contain themes of violence, death, explicit language, and gang activity, but every effort has been made to censor this video in accordance with YouTube's advertiser and community guidelines. And this video will feature absolutely no swearing, no violence, no drug use, and no firearms. So anyone from YouTube reviewing this video, please do not demonetize it. And it's really important for me to explain to you the purpose of this video is to provide an educational documentary providing an authoritative piece of news reporting.
I don't go fuck. Get to the video.
But interestingly, unlike Von, who was seemingly in the streets since a child, Jeff would wildly claim that he had only gotten involved in the streets about 3 years ago when he turned 18 and graduated from high school, committing all of these alleged murders in a very short time span.
So around what age did you jump off the porch and start hanging out in the streets?
I'm gonna say when I came outside for real, I was like 18 type shit.
Okay.
I just turned like 18.
Jeff also became known for his equally wild antics that showed he was a complete loose cannon. For example, when he famously snorted crushed up pills during his DJU interview. Then there was the time he seemingly shot his gun towards someone during an Instagram live, as well as openly bragging about how he was robbing people for their designer watches.
Hey, Lil Jeff, you should take this picture.
I was about now. Oh, weeds. I got blood on them diamonds and I still wore it.
This like it's part
I
of
was
my
just
tattoo.
say they don't know if that's a tattoo or real.
Nah, they know.
To compare Lil Jeff to King Von is guaranteed to anger some people, and by no means was Jeff's star power or rapping abilities anywhere near that of Von's. But then again, Von also had support from the biggest artist to ever rise from the drill scene, Lil Durk, and he was several years older than Jeff when his rap career took off. Furthermore, Von had already been in the streets for close to a decade, forming the reputation that would eventually help him to become the boogeyman of Chicago drill that he ended up being, as well as being an undeniable legend in the rap game following his untimely death in November 2020. Jeff, on the other hand, was still by all accounts very much still in the streets whilst he was trying to find his voice and talent on the mic. While Jeff's rapping style was controversial and divisive amongst fans of Chicago drill, there's no denying that Lil Jeff was evolving musically and becoming more and more comfortable in using his rather unique high-pitched voice that kind of made him sound like the real-life Joker of Chirac. Unfortunately, we'll never know what might have come from his music career because, as most drill fans know by now, on the 8th of June 2024, Lil Jeff was gunned down in the south side of Chicago, only about a half-a-mile walk from the notorious Parkway Gardens public housing complex, aka O-Block, that King Von was known to rep. And, as always seems to be guaranteed these days, Lil Jeff's demise and the shootout that led up to it was all captured on surveillance footage, even going viral within the drill community just after it happened. But it was not just the fact that Lil Jeff was killed that made his story blow up beyond the drill audience, but more so how he died. As when that surveillance video leaked soon after the news of his passing, the world saw a masked up Lil Jeff getting shot down as he was literally trying to chase another man into his house whilst wildly shooting in his direction, something that he'd even claimed to have done before in several songs.
I would rent this on his link.
After Lil Jeff's death, the media attention around him would blow up, with even more mainstream rap media platforms like No Jumper, who had previously not reported on him, including him in their content several times. Meanwhile, the twisted online detectives of the Chiracology subreddit were going into overdrive, and in the days following Jeff's death, dozens and dozens of new threads and comments from his fans and haters would fill the platform, with the most devoted Lil Jeff-ologists eventually even starting their very own subreddit to exclusively discuss and declare their devotion to their new king of drill. There were almost comical posts where Lil Jeff-ologists shared their grief, explaining how they were having sleepless nights and depression in the 24 hours following Jeff's death. These twisted posts would explain how the loss of their new favorite demonic rapper had been a personal blow, and how despite the alleged 11 murders to his name, they felt a personal connection to this flawed individual, and how his killer aura had resonated with so many. Soon would come updates, as fans posted saying that it had been 1 week since Jeff's death, and the devastation hadn't gotten easier, with this user explaining that he wants to drill himself so he can be with Lord Jeff, and asking other users if they have tips on how to.
Nah, that's some fucking weird ass shit. And I ain't gonna lie, like, bro, you don't even know him, bro. You don't even know, bro. IRL. Like, you want to kill yourself to be with him? Shit, motherfuckers wouldn't even do that shit for their mama. That's crazy.
Grieve.
Like, I know I understand being a fan, but like, damn.
Another update landed on day 12, as the user explained that he'd been saying Jeff's name in the mirror to try and bring him back, and explaining how he can still feel Jeff's presence around him, and that he's been seeing Jeff's reflection flashing wads of money at him in store windows. Now, all of this goes to show you the bizarre and twisted level of fandom that Chicago drill has really reached, with this adoration of Jeff even topping some of the most extreme King Von glazing that's been observed online. Chicago drill is truly the juncture where internet fandom meets music meets real-life true crime, where the very people actually involved in that life are getting killed by the hundreds every year. And when it comes to this combination of music and true crime, the story of Lil Jeff is surely up there with some of the wildest to come out of the drill scene in recent years. But Lil Jeff's story is still one shrouded in mystery, because while Jeff was certainly no stranger to letting the world know about his reckless escapades in the dangerous streets of Chicago, he was also a fairly new face in the scene who seemingly appeared out of nowhere just a few years ago, which makes his claims to have double-digit bodies under his belt sound particularly outrageous, making many fans of Chicago drill to quickly reject these claims as obviously false. Moreover, Lil Jeff hails from an area that's previously received only limited coverage coverage in media focused on the drill culture. So in this video, we're trying to give the most in-depth look into the life and the music career of Bloodhound Lil Jeff so far, and try and determine, with all of the information available publicly today, was Bloodhound Lil Jeff really a street demon with 11 murders to his name, or just a wannabe serial killer on social media who effed around and found out?
Being forced to see ads? Getting paid to see ads? Do you know how
Residents say they're fed up with violence like the weekend's mass shooting, and they're taking back the streets. On Saturday, it was a different scene on 75th Street in Chatham, where one person was shot and killed, 9 others wounded.
Outside their school, with homemade signs demanding peace, they gather.
We gonna rock with it, roll with it.
We're only 17, 18 years old, and we losing our lives at a young age.
Man, we do this shit, man, every day, man. Drill City, we out here, man.
On one of the most violent streets in the city, 79th Street, artist and activist Common lends his support and voice to lift up this Chatham neighborhood.
Yeah. See them bandanas, that mean we Bloodhound.
So can you tell us, like, who introduced you to the street life?
My brother.
Your older brother, right?
Looking at us, bro. Bloodhound. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are many families who are suffering.
So you would say you've experienced some trauma growing up in these streets of Chicago. Cause how old was you when Chief Keef came out? Like,
I was in 3rd grade.
cause they said Bloodhound Lil Jeff got 10 bodies.
I ain't gonna lie, my homie dad, that's on my face sheets right here.
See money?
Yeah.
And how did this death affect your mentality, brother?
These all I see is red.
About the type of lifestyle that Von led, everybody consider him the top savage of the rap. Was that something you looked up to?
Yeah, that's him, I'm me.
Hey, y'all, listen to this real quick. Let me know it's all here. This smoke with the whole rack. Whoever want it, we giving it out on my dead grave. Summertime finna be a black.
We live in a time right now where, like, a lot of rappers actually live the life they say, whether it's like trapping or anything.
16-year-old Robert Boston and 17-year-old Monterio Williams were gunned down.
Chicago police investigating a fatal shooting yesterday evening. 19-year-old Jaleel Goins was pronounced dead at Rush University Medical Center.
They make you fuck. Go ask my ops, that Michael Drake his ass ain't get out that car. You know that?
So when y'all like in the booth and all that, how do y'all stay away from like even incriminating lyrics?
I went black for like a week, and poof. So after that one, poof. I came back, poof.
Bloodhound, 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 Bloodhound.
Bloodhound, Bloodhound. YB, Bloodhound, Bloodhound.
Lil Jeff, real name Jeffrey Lamar Harris, was born on the 14th of July 2002, getting named after his father, who shares the exact same name. Jeff's family has seemingly mostly lived around the same area, the east side of Chicago.
Bloodhound Lil Jeff story today. Can you start by telling us where you from?
Chicago, you know what? East side of Chicago. East side of Chicago.
East side.
Yeah.
However, this east side is not to be confused with the official east side, which is one of the 77 community areas of Chicago located in the far south side of the city. The unofficial east side, on the other hand, which is where Lil Jeff grew up, is mainly part of the Chicago folklore, and thus its exact borders are often heavily debated by locals, with many even arguing that everything in the south side, from State Street all the way to Lake Michigan, actually counts as the east side, which would even include hoods like the infamous O Block and their main rivals STL EBT and Jarrow City. And on the other side of the Washington Park, also hoods like Tay Savage's Welch World. Yet these hoods are typically not discussed as being part of the east side, but rather simply being part of the south side, as in the case of O Block, STL, and Jarrow, or more specifically in the case of Welch World, part of the so-called Low End, another area that's a deep part of Chicago folklore, which roughly covers the area on the south side from the state to the lake north of Washington Park. In the drill culture specifically, the east side has become particularly known for hoods that exist roughly south of 67th Street, with this street and the two huge green spaces, the Jackson Park and Oakwood Cemetery, that border the street, creating a natural boundary in the north. However, there are also sets on the north side of the 67th Street that claim the east side, such as TYMB and Dro City, which both rep the 65th Street. While the line of where the east side ends when going westwards from Lake
You know what's crazy, bro? They're not even that far from each other. Like, this probably like a cool 10-minute drive. Like, these motherfuckers really like neighbors. Like, you go the wrong route, you in a different hood. Like, Draw City, what he said, where's your old block? Like around here? Like they're all close, bro. That's
Michigan
crazy.
is much more ambiguous, with the State Street and the I-94 next to it, generally acting as a sort of last cutoff point. In the drill scene, this east side is known particularly for gangs like G Herbo and Lil Bibby's crew NLMB, which is made up of two clicked-up gang sets, No Limit and the Muskegon Boys, with these initials creating the NLMB moniker, which has also been used to stand for Never Leave My Brothers. However, NLMB's hood is located in the South Shore neighborhood, which is located very close to the shores of Lake Michigan, and is infamously known by the locals as Terror Town, a place with a long history for being particularly dangerous. Whereas when it came to Lil Jeff, his family seemed to mostly stay in a much more central area around the Grand Crossing and Chatham community areas, which generally have been much lesser discussed in the drill scene before Lil Jeff's recent blow-up, although the area has seen its fair share of rappers since the early 2010s repping these specific hoods. Now, Lil Jeff's family has long ties to the streets in the area. His father, Jeffrey Harris Sr., allegedly belonged to a street set called 068 C Block, C standing for Champlain Avenue, with their main spot seemingly being on 68th Street and Champlain. To put this location in context, this street corner is only about 0.3 miles from the location where Lil Jeff would eventually lose his life. And while there's not much available about this particular set online, Jeff's father was born in the early 80s, and thus he and his set were likely at their most active around the turn of the millennium and throughout the 2000s. What we do know with some certainty is that Jeff's family were closely connected with the very people that Jeff would later go to war with, including the person alleged by many to have been the one to gun him down, although there's no real evidence at the moment to prove who was the actual triggerman. But what can be said with more certainty is that close to the hood of Jeff's father, there would be another large hood that would end up playing a very large role in the street beefs that Jeff would get involved in. This hood was well known in Chicago even back in the 90s and 2000s when Jeff's dad was more active in the streets, and its history likely even goes much further back than that. Their hood was called the Lon City. For example, in the classic 1996 song by Chicago rapper D.A. Smart titled Walk With Me, he lists several Chicago hoods all around the area, with one of the bars referencing Lakeside, Paxtown, and Lon City, as Smart mentions how both Black Disciples and Gangster Disciples run the two latter hoods. But while Lakeside and Paxtown have more or less stayed intact until this day, at least in name, Lon City would eventually break apart, therefore it's not included in the modern gang maps. However, during the late 90s, in the trial against Larry Hoover, the infamous founder and leader of the Gangster Disciples, or GDs, one of the former members of Hoover's GDs, who turned informant, would give a very detailed description about the Lon City's territory at the time. This territory...
It's crazy how two motherfuckers was running the biggest gangs in Chicago. That's fucking crazy, and they all fucking, most of them turn their back. That shit crazy. But hey, YouTube, we gonna leave it here. You know, I gotta make a call. You know, I gotta call the county jail. Gotta call my uncle. You know, gotta handle that situation. You know, pray for my uncle. You feel me? He gonna be out soon. You know, but hey, YouTube, this part 1. We're gonna come back with another part 2, and maybe 3 and 4, or 3, however long I take. But yeah, YouTube, stay tuned. Next part coming out. See ya.